Is everyone there?
Yes, I believe all speakers are there.
Yeah, okay. I think we will start. I think it's time. Okay, so welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. My name is Lorenzo Kalia from the Youth Transform in Africa. I'm a journalist, a gender advocate, and the 2021 World Bank Block for Deaf winner in Cameroon. Today, I'm happy to moderate this meeting under the theme Gender-Based Violence in Africa and its Impact on Development. We will have the opportunity to exchange with World Bank experts and young leaders from YALDA and the Youth Transform in Africa. We will, first of all, I'd like to remind you some rules in order to make our meeting a success. I invite everyone to mute themselves if they aren't speaking. When you have the floor, please put on your video and make sure you speak aloud so everyone can get you. And keep your answer brief as we have limited time. The agenda of the meeting includes the speaker's introduction by our co-moderator, Melatwork, and the moderated question and answer session and the general question and answer, and the final word. Melatwork, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our very important panel discussion. My name is Melatwork Ababu. I'm from YALDA. I'm also a lecturer and a PhD fellow at Addis Ababa University. I'm the president of the YALI alumni, the YALI Ethiopia Alumni Association, and the special advisor for YALDA Ethiopia. So today's incredible and diverse group of panelists are here to discuss this important issue, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our panelists, starting off with Olivia. Olivia is from Rwanda, and she is the founder and country director for Empower Rwanda. She's an experienced project management professional specializing in project cycle management, resource mobilization, policy formulation, gender responsive programming, labor, work advocacy, capacity building training, and gender equality promotion. She is much more knowledgeable in mobilizing and organizing communities, especially women, to address issues affecting them and engage in income generating initiatives so as to transform their lives. She holds a master's degree in business administration with a specialization in project management from Mount Kenya University, and bachelor's degree in development studies first class with honors from Uganda Christian University. Welcome, Olivia. Our second panelist is Bisharo Ali Hussein. She's a Somali Kenyan. She's a gender and policy expert who's passionate about gender equality and the health, rights, and well-being of girls and women. Bisharo possesses 11 years of experience in development and humanitarian settings in Somalia, Kenya, Uganda, and Netherlands, and worked with local NGOs, governments, academia, and UN agencies, and specifically focused in the field of protection, gender equality, conflict resolution, and peace building, migration, human rights, peace and security, governance, poverty reduction, and microfinance, housing, land and property, and durable solutions for the internally displaced, migrants, refugees, and poor host communities. Bisharo identifies as a feminist and has grown to be a human rights activist and fights specifically for youth and women's rights and sexual reproductive health rights. She also blogs about women and youth issues in Africa. Our third panelist is Mr. Busari Julius from South Sudan. He's a public health specialist currently working with AMREF Health Africa. He most recently curated the Nurle Human Art exhibition that happened for the 16 days activism in South Sudan. Julius has interest in sexual and reproductive health policy and programming. He has extensive work experience in academia, research, and humanitarian response. He prides himself as male feminist and promoter of girl and women empowerment in both private and professional life. He's also a creative artist with the thematic focus on social equality and health. Our fourth speaker is John Martingay. John is a passionate medical practitioner on matters of gender-based violence. He has worked for SAPTA Kenya, a subsidiary of Kenya Red Cross that deals with rehabilitation of heroin and cocaine victims and GBV victims, over 4,000 victims in Nairobi and Kaimu countries. And he's currently at Trinity Care Center in Kajiado County. He's also an author, a musician, and health promoter. Our fifth speaker is Muhanuzi Dora. She's from Uganda. She's a feminist writer. She's an energetic and award-winning feminist writer, researcher, legal scholar, and tech enthusiast. She's also the World Bank Blog for Development 2021 winner from Uganda. She's passionate about human rights, particularly the rights of women and girls. Muhanuzi envisions a world free from gender-based violence, a world where the heart and soul of every young woman and girl is on full display. It is for this reason that she has joined other young people all over the world to make this world a reality. She has previously collaborated on numerous human rights projects, including one with the American Bar Association. She currently serves as a consultant on a joint research project between Ghent University in Belgium and Plan International on sexuality and consent, where she advises on research approaches and interview guides that are most appealing to young people. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope today's panel discussion will be fruitful. Thank you so much. Lawrence, back to you.
Thank you so much, Malatwork. We'll start straight with a straight question to Olivia Promise from the NGO Empowering Rwanda. Olivia, research by Plan International indicates that resources have been redirected away from vital sexual and reproductive health and rights services in favor of the COVID-related responses. This shift is funding prioritization and resources redirection does affect in some ways the current progress made on creating a GBV-free world. How does that play out where you are? In 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Olivia Kavates, like they said. I'm the country director of Empower Rwanda. Empower Rwanda is a women's rights organization. Go straight to the question. COVID has really to focus from any other aspects of life, including gender-based violence prevention, especially. We find that now I'll speak from Rwandan context where most of focus has been right from administrative structures to the local communities. Much of attention has been put on the COVID-19 prevention and response. And you find that the funding, most of the funding is focused on WASH programs, forgetting to do awareness on GBV and also responding to the victims. And yet, COVID has accelerated the high rates of gender-based violence, especially the teenage pregnancies and high levels of dropouts. It has also increased a lot of family conflicts resulting from poverty levels and lost jobs and all that. So you find that the shift from focusing on gender-based violence prevention programs, we are focusing much on the prevention of GBV rather on prevention of COVID-19. Yet we realize that in numbers, the death numbers, previously we find that we just last week, the high rate of deaths were basically women. So we find that the women were dying more than men. So this could also be articulated on probably lack of health care for women, especially given their hard work and also the huge domestic care work that they involve lack of attention from the patriarchal system that has kept them down regardless of the conditions. So this has affected women and girls, especially where we have the highest numbers of teenage pregnancies, and this has affected the equality in education sector. It has actually accelerated inequalities in education sector, where boys are continuing to pursue their studies while girls are dropping out of school due to teenage pregnancies. So the funding has not considered the GBV victims, especially now the teen moms. When you look at the funding, it's going to enterprises, helping business people, helping the enterprises to recover, but there's no specific funding that is allocated on helping the GBV victims. For instance, there's no fund that is specifically designed to help the teen mothers return to school. So if this is not catered for, it is going to accumulate the huge poverty gap between women and men, or boys and girls. So I realized that the funding has not really considered the GBV victims, especially in responding to the challenges they face, specifically girls and women. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now I have a question to Bisharo Ali Hussein. There has been rises in the case of GBV during the pandemic, particularly in Kenya, which is not far from Rwanda. What do you think led this to this, and what remedy do you think can be done to avoid this form of happening in the future? Bisharo.
Thank you very much. First, I would say that GBV has increased everywhere, including Kenya. GBV is an issue, across the world, and lockdown restriction has actually not only, forced people to stay though, but it has also exacerbated issues, particularly for intimate partner violence. And in this case, statistics have shown, that more girls and women than men are experiencing GBV, particularly domestic violence, female genital mutilation, sexual and physical abuse, and more so loss of income during COVID-19. So for economic, stress and violence, which is one of the causes or effects that we see, the isolation of lockdown has really, led to a lot of violence. The fact that women are not only staying at home, but we have seen that they're not able to go out and earn on daily basis, and a major source of stress for people, both men and women. And most of the survivors are also, have no alternatives. They have been living with the perpetrators, who are majorly known to them. So another aspect is the issue of traditional African patriarchy norms of men as breadwinners, of the family. And we have seen roles changing over time. And also this kind of proximity that we have seen to male members of the households, that, when men could have gone out to work, but now we've seen that they are staying at home, and they are competing with women at home for the household's decision. This has really increased these GBV incidents. We have also seen that many women actually could not go out to report, and men knew that there was nobody who will hold them accountable since everybody's in the lockdown. So I would say that while GBV has really increased during COVID-19, it has also given us an opportunity as activists, as people who are fighting for gender equality and GBV, an opportunity to be brave and also come up with other approaches. So doing things like more messaging around gender, sexual reproductive health rights, services, self-care options, that put power in the hands of girls and women should continue, to be promoted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Julius, Busari, tell us, as a public health specialist in South Sudan, do you think GBV is a priority for major stakeholders there? Julius?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would want to say yes and no. Yes, because for all the years I've worked here, there are major players, major stakeholders who have taken GBV as a major part of their mandate, UNFPA being on top of that, and a few other NGOs. But again, when you look at it from the perspective of the cardinal responses that are needed for GBV programming, the legal, the medical, the psychosocial, and the safety, there are players who should put GBV as a priority, but from all indications, they are dragging their feet. And majorly in the legal aspect, we have some laws we have tried to push, but from all indications, they are not being passed because somebody somewhere is not seeing it as a major priority. But the medical field has found it as a priority, and it's all clear in terms of how services are being provided. Of course, the social workers, it's always been their priority. And then for the safety, and that speaks to the protection that comes with the police and the other government institutions for implementing the law, it's not been. So I would want to close by saying, yes, it's a priority for some, but we have also found that it's not being put as a priority as it should be for those that actually should make it a priority.
Thank you. We've heard you. Thank you so much. And I have another question. To this, what you just said brings a question on the table to John Martingay. John, based on your work in public health space in Kenya, do you see a nexus between drug abuse and incidents of GBV?
Okay, thank you very much. Absolutely, yes. You see now, gender-based violence, drug abuse, and maybe mental health are conjoined three things that should be dealt with all together. Remember, most of the people who are involved in gender-based violence have at some point, or even during the act of violence, are the influence of drugs such as heroin, cocaine, and bug. Which mostly we dealt with when I was working with SAPTA Kenya, which is substance abuse prevention treatment for Africa. So you find that most of the perpetrators of these acts use violence to get to drugs, and when they get to drugs, they use the influence of the drugs abuse to cause violence. So, and as you know, most of the drugs they use bring about impaired judgment. You know, it brings about anger, temperament, and stimuli to a hidden power to make these men feel get the superiority complex over the other gender. And all this becomes a haven or a catalyst for violence. And it's very hard now to separate the three. It's also good to deal with now the issue of drug abuse is causing gender-based violence, and also vice versa. Gender-based violence is leading people, especially the victims, again now to drug and substance abuse, maybe to get relief from what they have been passing through if they don't get help from other areas. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have a question now for Dora Muhanuzi. We've just listened to John as a legal scholar and researcher on GBV and sexuality. What do you think the two meet? Dora Muhanuzi.
Thank you so much. I am Dora Muhanuzi from Uganda, and I'm going to address you on the nexus between sexuality and GBV. So sexuality, for purposes of this discussion, refers to the way that people experience and express themselves sexually. It is synonymous to sexual orientation, which has to do with whom a person is or is not attracted to, either sexually or romantically. So in relation to GBV, sexuality mainly comes up in terms of minority groups, such as the LGBTIQ community. So many African states are anti-homosexuality and lesbianism. And the arguments that are fronted for this are numerous, from the arguments that African culture does not support homosexuality, to religion, and that is besides the point. But the fact is that of all the states in Africa, only one state has legalized gay marriages. So The effect of this criminalization is that victims of gender-based violence that subscribe to these minority groups are excluded from the law. They are left with no means of recourse when they are victimized. So in addition, this criminalization means that perpetrators of GBV against members subscribing to these minority groups are more brutal. They are, they find confidence in the fact that the law and societies within which they operate are supportive of their actions. But also away from homosexuality and lesbianism, even within heterosexual relationships, we find that society norms, relating to sexuality, even in terms of, heterosexuals, are reinforce negative beliefs about the role of women in society, in terms of the entitlement of men to sex from women. So when all this comes together, you find that it reinforces negative beliefs and norms that entrench or that deepen gender-based violence in our societies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I'm back to Olivia from Rwanda. Please, Olivia, tell us, as a gender and developer practitioner, do you feel contented with the progress being made in this space? If yes, where in particular? If not, what do you think we're missing? Olivia.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll speak from a Rwandan perspective. We have very good policies, we have laws that really talk about GBV prevention and response. But I think that the gap is now in the enforcement of the laws and also helping the victims access justice and also have the perpetrators be tried in the courts of law so they can be paid, they can pay for what they costed the little girls, especially women and teen girls. So I feel like there's also no lot of resources that have been allocated to respond to support the victims, where they have, especially women and girls in the remote villages where they have failed to return to school, especially those who are victims of rape, victims of defilement, and who are teen moms. This has escalated the high number of cases and also abuse, sexual abuse in the communities. But there's also a lot that needs to be done, especially in raising awareness on women's rights, with focus on uprooting the cultural practices that undermine their rights, and also the patriarchal structures that promote toxic masculinity, where patriarchy has applauded men's power over women. And then there's high power abuse, especially in homes, where we have seen very many women die because they are women or because they are considered weak species. So there's a lot that needs to be done, much as we have laws and policies, but there's also need to do a lot of enforcement and do awareness on women's rights. And should be everyone's responsibility to know that women's rights are human rights, and it's not a favor. So they should be respected as such. There also has to be advocacy at all levels, right from the central government to the local government structures, where everyone should be concerned, especially in protecting women and their rights. There's also need to be given women space to participate in processes and decision-making processes within their communities, so they can be able to be voices for the voiceless. So a lot of has to be focused on that. Women's rights awareness, funding to the GBV victims, and helping the victims receive justice that timely.
Thank you. Bisharo, Bisharo, are you here? Bisharo, in your decade-long work in gender and human rights space, would you say that there has been an adequate stakeholders-led approach to sustainable gender-sensitive program in the region? Bisharo Ali Hussein.
Thank you very much. I think, frankly, we can never have enough. New strategies, and emerging trends on GBV keep us on our feet every day. it is also worth actually appreciating the approaches currently being implemented by different governments in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. But we can do more, as we review and also strengthen the existing policies or strategies or legislations that are in place. So in particular, I think there is a need to this kind of innovative stakeholder-led approach on male engagement, which has been, forgotten for a long time. In GBV prevention and response, there is also this essence of sexual harassment at the workplace and also private sector, the governments, the CSOs, academia, and also NGO coordination. So some examples in the region, for example, let me start with Somalia, where I've worked intensively. We developed this national GBV strategy of 2018-2020, but still we see that there is challenge, especially in the lack of progress of the federal government in, in passing the sexual offense legislation that basically, provides some level of protection for the most vulnerable, women and girls and also this kind of detract perpetrators from implementing, GBV with impunity. So of course, there is progress, especially with support, collaboration, and partnership with stakeholders in humanitarian. And I believe we still need and expect better programming, policy, legislation actions for better protection of GBV. Another example I'll just mention quickly is the government of Kenya, together with non-government stakeholders, have also taken strides in addressing GBV. For example, they have been establishing this kind of troll-free GBV national hotlines and the polycare. The different have been, coming up with strides by establishing GBV response centers. Yeah. And recently, they also passed a bill law to allow for establishment and expansion of safe houses for survivors of, GBV. So just to finalize, I would say that also, many approaches have been used to address gender equality with a matter of or use of a strategy of a Western approach. And by this, I mean, there has been gender mainstreaming by the stakeholders involved, whereby we internalize a Western approach. But I think there should be this kind of vernacularization of human rights as suggested by Sally and Mary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was quite interesting. And we're going now to Busari. How effective is AMREF Health Africa programming in regards to ensuring a GBV-free society? Where you are exactly? So tell us, Busari, in the AMREF Health Center where you're working.
Yeah, thank you so much. As AMREF, we are implementing GBV prevention and response in the western part of South Sudan, specifically in Western Equatoria State. And I'll speak to this from two perspectives. We have both the community prevention and then the response services. For the community prevention, there's slow progress in terms of effectiveness, but at least there is progress. And this is in terms of working with already established community structures to incorporate an objective of ending child marriage and other harmful practices that are related to GBV. So that's work in progress, because we're also working within a country where GBV laws are not widespread and they are not very clear cut. So there is a bit of gray area. But for the purpose of this discussion, I want to focus a lot more on the response aspect, which I'll speak to the one-stop center model that we are using in GBV case management, where the legal, the medical, and the psychological counseling services are provided within one roof. And this particular approach has been effective in addressing one of the long-standing concerns in GBV prevention, in GBV case management, which is lost to follow up as survivors are referred from one service center to another. So the one-stop center has proved to be an effective way of responding to GBV cases by having the service providers in one roof. So therefore the survivor just has to move from one room to another. And by the time they exit, they have basically got all the services in one place. But there is a challenge here. As I mentioned earlier, one of the other cardinal services that we're supposed to provide, which is safety, is missing, because not all states in South Sudan have safe homes for GBV. So we've always had challenges when we have to refer a survivor who basically can't go back home because of security issues and safety issues. So we've had challenges, and in different cases, we've had to refer them to makeshift places here and there, but that's something we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, John Manteke, how did this, we're talking now about the COVID-19, how did it change in particularly with the COVID-19 where you are? How did GBV movement change with COVID-19 we're facing like from 2-3 years today?
So I remember the year 2020, especially in Kenya, when the lockdowns were effected by the government of Kenya, there was still the rise of cases of GBV until the president announced as a key, especially a key thing of concern together with the mental health. This is because many people, especially in Kenya, were not used to stay at home. So, and now there are lockdowns. They are put in the same houses with their partners. So you find that there are arguments that arise day in, day out. Number two, there was scarcity of substances. There was scarcity of food. There was scarcity of finances. And you know where there is scarce, that's a catalyst or again of violence. So maybe also what caused more of GBV, especially during COVID-19 situation, again, cultures and traditions, and drug and substance abuse, depression, mental health issues like schizophrenia. Many people are sunk into depression, and they would act in a violent way, and people and they would think they are acting normally, and they were mental health issues. So yeah, those are some of the things that caused the rise of GBV cases in COVID-19. Yeah, so. Maybe I can add on the causes. You know, they said we are Africans and Africa is our business. And some of the business of Africans is to preserve their cultures and traditions. But I'm of the opinion that some of the cultures and traditions are pro-GBV. For example, there are communities even in Kenya who still believe that women should be whipped or caned or beaten to be disciplined. To them, they are the law and the law enforcers of the same house, and they should not be questioned. So I think that should be dealt with, especially in Africa. Yeah.
Thank you, John. And what you just saying is just bringing us to a question addressed to Dora Muhanuzi. You've been facing COVID-19 also in your country, and is it correct to suggest that the rise of GBV in a society also depends on how that society sees the women and girls? If yes, what should it be, and in your opinion, and any strategy that exists? Dora Mwanuzi.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So yes, it is correct that GBV is relative to how a society views its women and girls. So gender-based violence in itself is a reflection of social norms, and social norms are these unwritten beliefs and attitudes and behaviors that a particular society considers as acceptable. So GBV then is a reflection, especially in the context of Africa, a reflection of the power inequalities between men and women, a reflection of the subordinate role that women hold in most societies in Africa. And it is for this very reason that, as has been discussed previously, that gender-based violence is more commonly experienced by women and girls as opposed to men and boys. So for context, collectively shared norms or views, if you may, about women's subordinate position in society, about men's authority to discipline women and children, about society's duty to protect the honor of a family over women, attitudes about objectification of women, not only within communities, but also in online spaces, create a conducive environment within which gender-based violence can thrive. again, if you examine some of the GBV practices that are prevalent on the African continent, practices such as FGM, practices such as infanticide, or even child marriages, you will realize that many of these are rooted in social norms. They are widely supported by the communities within which they thrive. And again, for FGM particularly, which is highly practiced within my country, traditionally FGM was supported because it preserved a woman's virginity until marriage. So that is, that points a clear picture of how such societies view women, in terms of, their duty or to pleasure men. So, which then goes to point that, the way a society views a woman, the way societies view their women is.
Yeah, we're getting you.
Excuse me?
We're getting you, but
okay. So yes,
just before us in 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Okay, so as I conclude, what I'm trying to say is that systems like these are patriarchal systems that view women as maybe objects, or that view women as less than, that strip women of their individuality and their humanity, are more likely to accept GBV as opposed to communities that are more liberal and that are more accepting of women's rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We just Dora just conclude the first moderated question and answer session. Now we're going to general question. One question will be asked to all the speakers, but you will answer one by one. We're starting with Olivia. There's some questions to everyone. According to the latest estimates, nearly 1 in 3 women aged 15 years and older globally have been subjected to some form of GBV at least one in their lives. What, in your opinion, perpetuates this? And if you can, any possible remedies out of this injustice? We're starting with Olivia, promise.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. I'll start, like my colleague said, GBV has been here, has been there. It is practiced everywhere, every day. But most of the common causes of this, it is true, women are abused day and night, but most of this abuse is derived from the cultural norms that have kept women subject to any form of violence. And also looking at the toxic masculinity, where men continue to abuse them, to abuse their power in their homes. Because we have done researches looking at perpetrators, and where they say the victim blaming, they tend to blame girls and women for the practices that are done upon them. We have also seen the patriarchal system that keeps women's participation less compared to male counterparts. And also a lack of men engagement strategies where they are supposed to be a part of the GBV prevention. It keeps the lack of that participation keeps women vulnerable more than them, because they are perpetrators and they're not involved, especially in awareness programs. So lack of also awareness on women's rights has also, especially on sexual and reproductive health rights, where we have seen for instance, most women fail to get access to services, SRH services, just because they are women. So that kind of inequalities, the gender inequalities, both that are derived from cultural aspects, from structural and system aspects, has increased GBV against women and girls, but also high levels of poverty, which has kept most women and girls abused because they depend on perpetrators who continue to abuse them. For instance, most teenage pregnancies, the perpetrators keep abusing the girls because they are helping them to survive with their young children. So this kind of lack of power imbalance and high poverty levels has kept the sexual abuse and harassment the highest rate, which actually results into gender-based violence. I would propose also there should be advocacy at all levels, where everyone is involved in fighting gender-based violence at their respective levels. Also ecosystems where governments and institutions work together as civil society organizations, where we should have coordinated strategies to prevent this, but also parents, the increase in parents' responsibilities, especially in protecting their children from perpetrators, and also the cultural beliefs and early marriages, should also be discouraged. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the question now to Bisharo Ali Hussein, who was really implicated in this question, general question. Ali Hussein, you want me to restart the question back, or you already know? Okay, I'll take it back. I'll take the question back. According to the latest estimates, nearly 1 in 3 women aged 15 years and older globally have been subjected to some form of GBV at least one in their life. What, in your opinion, perpetuates this? And if you can, any possible remedies out of this injustice? Let's go like in 1 minute, because we don't have enough time again in front of us. Just a minute. Thank you.
Thank you. In my opinion, what perpetuates GBV, especially in Africa, is some culture that enables GBV, whereby men in some cultures are allowed to be violent, with their wives, especially looking down at them. And my colleague John has also emphasized on it, whereby women are beaten by their husbands to show some kind of love. And that myth of masculinity is exercised through violence and, negative power dynamics of dominance also. So lack of implementation of also existing legal frameworks on GBV and some countries enabling, the perpetrators to get away with the crime is also another challenge. And we have seen that another myth is that men are not supposed to be vulnerable, has made men, subjective to abuse and violence, that they are shut down and they suffer silently. So to some extent, also there is this kind of bride price that when a marriage occurs is allowing GBV. We see that men use it as an excuse to torture women because they feel that they own these women. Lack of also redress mechanism and also support system for GBV survivors in grassroots and urban centers has also brought this kind of, them being stuck with the perpetrators. So I'll say some of the root causes are power dynamics and patriarchy. My colleagues have said it. Just to emphasize, the other issue is the culture. And some of the possible remedies, I would say first is to ensure that we kind of have remedies at all levels, structural level, especially at the government, on safety and security, have this kind of protection in place and framework for survivors, to be able to report and also receive care that they need, knowing that the perpetrators, will be met with justice. Secondly, training for police officers on GBV and where survivors can be able to access these services. Health system levels also, we need to train staff on global guidance for survivor-based care, because when you go to these kind of health services, sometimes the way they treat victims is atrocious. This need to change. Also at the community level, lots of needs to be done, awareness raising, as my colleagues have said, to change the attitude and the norms that reinforce this kind of gender imbalance. So just to finalize is that legal frameworks should be streamlined, they should be emphasized, everyone made aware of it, to be able to facilitate reporting of these cases. And as women, we need to be enlightened that GBV is not love, but it is torture and should not be condoned at any level. So these are some of the things that I will propose. And just one important thing is about the shelter for GBV victims should be established, widely spread, to equip also these people with psychosocial, programs and also empowering programs so that women can be able to live in safe and secure places. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And the same question was asked to the public health specialist in South Sudan, which is Julius Busari. Julius, tell us, what is your opinion perpetuates these effects of one woman on 3 aging between 15 and older have been victim of GBV? Can you tell us something in 1 minute?
Yeah, sure. In my opinion, it's a patriarchal social system that propagates the hegemonic kind of masculinity that is based on dominance. So for me, everything else wraps into that. And as my proposal for a solution, we have an age-long solution that has proved to work, and that is formal education. And I'm very glad that for most of the countries, the rates of formal education enrollment are very high. So basically, if we could have our curriculum in the schools to address attitudes, values, and knowledge regarding GBV, in the next 20 years, we'll have citizens that are more receptive of a discussion about GBV, but also are have more chances of not perpetrating GBV. That's where I'll stop.
Wow, thank you, Julius. That was really 1 minute. We like that. We really appreciate. And we wish John Matenka the next will be as short as possible with this same question. What is your opinion about this situation? One woman on 3, age between more than 15 years and older, has been victim of GBV. How can you change it, and how can you remediate from this injustice? John.
So, okay. Now, I must commend the Kenya, the government of Kenya, or Kenya as a country as a whole. As like we have organizations that deal with the matters of GBV that has hastened the reporting and cut short the process of reporting the cases of GBV. For example, what we call HAK, healthcare assistance. That developed toll-free numbers, 1195, whereby you can call. And I remember when I was at Young Africa Leadership Initiative Forum, we were trying to see how it would work. And actually, even now it is working very well, whereby victims of gender-based violence can press the mobile phones and call, and within minutes, they would get assistance from in case of emergency. Now, I think, as we all know, cases of GBV are more prevalent in some areas than others. So mostly in slums and slums. And I think the government has governments in Africa has a lot of work to do, especially in raising the economy to ensure that the environment is sanitized. If we have few slums, or we don't have slums at all, then I can tell you the cases of drug abuse and substances and GBV will reduce. Then, of course, education is key, as my brother from Southern Sudan has said, that we can incorporate this to curriculum. The other thing is training of counselors and psychologists to deal with mental health, healthcare to men, especially to men, so that they can guide them and counsel them on how to deal with to bring solutions to problems they are facing instead of causing violence. And like, for example, in Kenya, there are only 6,000 trained, registered counselors and psychologists by Kenya Counseling and Psychologist Association. So we need to, noting that Kenya, we are almost 50 million people, then we only have 6,000, then I think that number is very low. Then, of course, the other thing, we need to come up with innovative ways of how to deal with cases of violence. There's something I want to mention here. There's some perception from people that indecency, and they said indecency causes GBV. For example, if you see a lady wearing a miniskirt, for example, in the streets of Nairobi, it used to happen, then that is a catalyst again for violence against women, that they perpetuate that is exposing themselves, and they say that indecency is cause of GBV, and I don't think that should be justified. Yeah. Also, misunderstanding in families and arguments in misunderstanding in families, and I think this is brought about incompatibility. I think people should be trained or educated on how to get partners in their lives.
And to the last but not the least, Dora Muhanuzi, YTA member, can you tell us your opinion about the situation in Africa? One woman on 3 age between age 15 years and older have been victim of GBV once in their life. What is your opinion, and what can help your country in particular and Africa in general to change this situation? Dora. We can hear you, Dora. Dora?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Okay. So personally, I think violence is not a private matter. So it must be uncovered in order for it to be challenged. And challenging GBV will involve challenging social norms that condone violence or that impose gender roles on women. It will include strengthening legislation that criminalizes GBV, and it will include prosecuting perpetrators and doing so deliberately and as seriously as possible. But maybe perhaps for me, most importantly, is the role of young people in ending GBV, particularly on the African continent. We are the future of the continent. We are the future of the world. And so we must be more than involved in the fight against GBV. We must be at the front line. We must be at the table, and we must be part of any programs or any strategies to end GBV. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Dore. Thanks to you. We're coming out of this question, and we understand that every country from Rwanda to Kenya to all the countries involved in this conversation are all against gender-based violence, and we understand that you guys bring a lot of solution for your country and Africa in general. And we want to thank you all for participating. And I want to pass the word to Melatwork so she can conclude. Melatwork, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. On the behalf of YALDA, YTA, and World Bank team, we would like to thank our speakers for joining us today and sharing their invaluable facts, opinions, and suggestions and recommendations, and their messages were incredible. Yes, I agree with all of you. We young people need to, join the fight against gender-based violence. We need to raise awareness. We need to be part of the solution. Also, engaging men is also a huge part of the solution. And we are going to do. We have to should do better, and we should always, work harder to prevent gender-based violence for the next generation. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, the speakers. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, everyone. This has been such an incredible message.
Thank you. Just asking to take a group photo. If everyone can turn off their camera and smile, like you smile to fight against GBV in our countries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we come at the end.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye too.
Bye.